We are standing at the edge of eternity, and there's a truth so terrifying that even the prophets wept when they heard it. Imagine a day when every mask you've ever worn gets ripped off, when every excuse you've ever made crumbles into dust, when your bank account means nothing, your status means nothing, and the only thing that matters is the raw, naked truth of who you really were. This isn't science fiction, and this isn't some distant mythology. The Quran describes a day that will come for every single one of us, and here's what will shock you. It doesn't matter if you're a believer or a disbeliever, rich or poor, powerful or weak, nobody, absolutely nobody gets an easy pass on the Day of Judgment. Today, we're diving deep into why this revolutionary concept changed everything humanity thought they knew about salvation, and why the wealthiest and most powerful people on earth should be the most terrified. Let's start with something that will blow your mind. Throughout human history, every major religion offered their followers a safety net, a guarantee, a golden ticket to paradise. The Jewish tradition taught that the Israelites were God's chosen people, so Judgment Day would be easy for them because of their special status with the Almighty. Christianity introduced the belief that Jesus paid for all sins with his blood on the cross, so believers were essentially pre-approved for heaven regardless of what they did. The pagan religions had multiple gods who would supposedly intervene and protect their devoted followers when the day of reckoning arrived. Everyone had an insurance policy, everyone had a way out, everyone thought they'd be fine. Then Islam came along and absolutely shattered this comfortable illusion into a million pieces. The Quran made it crystal clear that there is no VIP list, there is no automatic entry, there is no religious label that will save you. Being Muslim does not guarantee you paradise, and that's not a weakness of the religion. That's its greatest strength. Now imagine this scene for a moment. A horn is about to be blown. But this isn't just any horn. In Arabic, the word used suggests something that digs deep, that pierces through, that penetrates layers upon layers of protection. Think about a bird's beak pecking away at wood, constantly drilling until it breaks through. That's the imagery here. This horn will be blown, and in that instant, everything that wrapped you up in this worldly life, all the wealth you accumulated, all the status you achieved, all the distractions that consumed your days and nights, will be cut through like tissue paper. It's like living in Texas where tornado sirens go off to warn you of danger. Except the siren isn't warning you about a natural disaster that might destroy your house. This siren is announcing the end of everything you've ever known, and the beginning of an accountability so complete, so thorough, and so inescapable that your mind cannot currently comprehend its weight. Here's where the Quran does something absolutely fascinating with language. It says this will be a difficult day, but then it emphasizes on that day as if to tell you that right now, sitting wherever you are reading or watching this, you cannot truly understand how heavy that day will be. You can think about it, you can imagine it, you can intellectualize it, but the reality will be so far beyond anything your brain can currently process that you only truly grasp it when you're actually standing there. This isn't meant to paralyze you with fear. It's meant to wake you up right now, in this moment, whilst you still have time to change, to grow, to become better, to prepare. And notice something else that's remarkable. When Allah describes this difficult day, He doesn't immediately specify who it's difficult for. He just says it's difficult, period, full stop. Difficult for whom? Allah doesn't say yet, and there's a profound reason for that. Let me take you deeper into this. There are other places in the Quran where we see that even the prophets will be feeling the weight of that day. Prophet Isa, known as Jesus in the Christian tradition, will be questioned by Allah, asking him, "Did you tell people to take you and your mother as gods besides me? Did you say that to people?" Imagine being asked that question by your Creator. Is that going to be an easy day for Prophet Isa? Absolutely not. Now let's talk about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the final messenger. He was told about the day when every nation will have a witness brought against them, and he will be brought as a witness against his own followers, the Muslims. When this verse was recited to him, when he heard about being a witness against the very people he spent his entire life trying to guide and save, he began to weep and said, "Enough, enough, enough." He couldn't bear to hear more. If the beloved messenger of Allah, the best of creation, is crying at the thought of that day, What does that tell you about how you and I should be feeling? This brings us to perhaps the most revolutionary concept in Islamic theology, something that makes Islam fundamentally different from every other religious tradition that came before it. Judgment Day is difficult for everyone, not just the bad people, not just the disbelievers, not just the criminals and oppressors, everyone. Abu Bakr Siddiq, the closest companion of the Prophet, felt warned. Umar ibn al-Khattab, one of the strongest believers in Islamic history, felt warned. The Prophet Muhammad himself felt warned. These weren't people living in doubt or sin. These were the best of the best, the cream of the crop, the most devoted servants of Allah. And even they were terrified of that day. The Prophet even said, "I don't know what will be done with me, and I don't know what will be done with you." He is the Prophet of Allah, and he is saying he doesn't know his own fate with certainty. Let that sink in for a moment. Now here's where it gets really interesting and where Islam breaks from every other tradition. We are not a religion that says if you're Muslim, you're guaranteed heaven. Read that again and let it really hit you. Being Muslim does not guarantee you paradise. The Christian says if you're a Christian, you're guaranteed heaven because Jesus paid for your sins. The Jew says if you're part of God's chosen people, you're guaranteed heaven. The pagan says our gods will take care of us. But the Muslim says even if you're Muslim, you're not guaranteed anything except the justice and mercy of Allah, and your deeds will speak for themselves. Some Christian preachers have actually mocked this, saying, "We've got a guarantee and you don't even have a guarantee. Isn't it better to have a guarantee?" And the response is beautifully simple. No, it's not better to have a false guarantee. I'd rather face reality than live in a comfortable delusion. A false guarantee is worse than no guarantee. And all because it makes you complacent, it makes you lazy. It makes you think you can live however you want and still be saved in the end. Look at what the Quran says to believers, not to disbelievers, but to believers. O you who believe, save yourselves and your families from the fire. Wait, hold on. Shouldn't it be O you who disbelieve, save yourselves because believers should already be saved? Right, wrong. Allah is directly commanding the believers to save themselves from hell. If believers had automatic immunity, why would they need this warning? The answer is brutally simple. Nobody gets immunity. Nobody gets a free pass. Nobody gets to hide behind the label. You don't get to hide behind being Muslim just like you don't get to hide behind being Christian or Jewish. When you stand before Allah, all the barriers are cut through. All the excuses are stripped away. All the layers of identity and status and wealth are peeled back. And all that remains is the truth of who you were and what you did with the life you were given. Your deeds matter, your intentions matter, your character matters. And no religious label will save you if your heart and actions were corrupt. Now let us shift gears and talk about a particular group of people that the Quran pays very special attention to when discussing the Day of Judgment, and that's the elite, the wealthy, the powerful, the 1%. Throughout all of human history, the wealthy have always had exit strategies. When the economy crashes, they have offshore accounts and investments that protect them. When war breaks out, they can hop on a private jet and fly somewhere safe whilst everyone else suffers and dies. When a pandemic hits, they have access to the best healthcare and can isolate in luxury. They're used to being insulated from consequences. They're used to making deals and pulling strings. They're used to ensuring that whatever happens to society at large doesn't affect them personally. They live in a bubble where problems are for other people, where suffering is something they watch on the news but never experience themselves. And some of them, many of them actually, develop this incredibly twisted logic. They think, if God blessed me with all this wealth in this life, if He made me part of the 1%, then clearly He favors me. So why would things change in the next life? Same God, right? He's probably going to hook me up there too. All these warnings about Judgment Day, all this talk about accountability, that's for the poor people, that's for the struggling masses. That's not for me because I'm blessed. This is exactly the mentality Allah is addressing when the Quran specifically says that the Day of Judgment will especially not be easy for the disbelievers amongst the elite. Notice the language being used here. The Quran already said the day will be difficult, but now it says it won't be easy for the disbelievers. What's the difference between something being difficult and something not being easy? When you tell someone that something won't be easy, you're specifically correcting their assumption that it will be easy. It's a direct response to their complacency and arrogance. The elite are so used to things working out in their favor, so used to being protected from consequences, that they need to be explicitly told, no, this day will not be easy for you. Your wealth won't help you, your power won't save you, your connections won't mean anything. You're going to face the consequences of your choices just like everyone else. And actually, it's going to be even harder for you because you had more and you did less with it. It is absolutely crucial to understand who the Quran is referring to when it talks about the disbelievers in the early Meccan context, because this will help you understand who it is talking about in every age, including our own. When Allah mentions the kafir in the early Meccan surahs, He's not talking about the entire population of Mecca. He's not talking about every single person who didn't accept Islam. He's talking about a specific group, those who became active enemies of the message, those who used their wealth and power to oppress others and suppress the truth. These were primarily the wealthiest and most powerful people in that society, people like Abu Jahl, Abu Lahab, and Walid ibn Mughira. These weren't just people who didn't believe. These were people who actively fought against justice, who tortured early Muslims, who used their economic and social power to try to destroy the message before it could spread. They're the ones the Quran is specifically addressing and critiquing throughout these passages. Allah actually says in the Quran, "Let me deal with the people who have a lot of wealth and call you a liar. Let me deal with the 1%. And then the Quran does something absolutely brilliant. Among all the enemies of the Prophet in Mecca, who was the smartest one? It wasn't Abu Jahl, who was straightforward and obvious in his opposition. It wasn't Abu Lahab, who was openly hostile and easy to read. It was Walid ibn Mughira. Walid was different. He was a strategist, a politician, someone who thought long-term, someone who worked behind the scenes. He was complicated, nuanced, intelligent, and therefore far more dangerous than the others. Abu Jahl was easy to deal with because what you saw was what you got. Abu Lahab wore his hatred on his sleeve. But Walid was calculated, careful, and cunning. So what does the Quran do? It takes the smartest enemy and dedicates significant attention to analyzing his psychology, his tactics, his methods, and his ultimate fate. It's as if Allah is teaching the believers, if you want to do dawah, if you want to call people to truth, you need to know your enemy. You need to understand who you're up against. And if you really want to understand your enemy, you need to understand your most hidden enemy, the most intelligent one, the one who works behind the scenes rather than out in the open. This is the Quran's way of giving us a template that will apply until the Day of Judgment. Every generation will have its version of Walid. Every era will have intelligent, wealthy, powerful opponents of truth who use their resources and strategic thinking to undermine justice and righteousness. They won't always be obvious. They won't always be loud. They won't always announce themselves as enemies. Sometimes they'll smile and shake your hand whilst working against you behind closed doors. Sometimes they'll speak eloquently about values and principles whilst their actions completely contradict their words. By understanding the original template, by studying how the Quran analyses Walid's character and methods, we can recognize and respond to these patterns whenever they emerge in our own time. This isn't about creating paranoia or seeing enemies everywhere. It's about being aware, being intelligent, being strategic, and not being naive about the forces that oppose truth and justice in every age. So what's the practical takeaway from all of this? What are you supposed to do with this information right now, today, in your actual life? First, you need to truly internalize that the Day of Judgment is real and it is serious for everyone without exception. Stop thinking you're automatically safe because of your religious identity or because of how blessed you are in this life. Your blessings are a test, not a guarantee. Second, understand that when all the superficial layers are stripped away, when all the distractions are penetrated, what will matter is your deeds, your character, your intentions, and the state of your heart. You can't hide behind labels or status or wealth. Third, be aware of the systems and individuals in society who use power and resources to suppress truth. and oppress others. Don't be naive about these realities. Understand them, recognize them, and resist them with wisdom and courage. And fourth, live each day as if you were preparing for that moment when you'll stand completely exposed before your Creator, because that's exactly what you're doing whether you realize it or not. The beauty of this Islamic perspective, the thing that makes it so different from every other religious framework, is that it keeps you perpetually conscious, perpetually striving, perpetually humble. You can never become complacent. You can never think you've done enough. You can never sit back and coast on your religious identity. You're always trying to improve, always trying to purify your heart, always trying to be better today than you were yesterday. Some people see this as a burden, but it's actually a mercy. It's what keeps you spiritually alive and morally alert. The false guarantee of automatic salvation leads to spiritual death, because why would you strive if you're already guaranteed success? Why would you struggle against your ego if you're already saved? Why would you constantly work on your character if your eternal fate is already sealed? But when you know that every single action counts, that every moment is an opportunity to either grow closer to or further from your Creator, that your fate is being written by your choices right now in this very second, then you live with purpose, with consciousness, with genuine spiritual vitality that transforms every aspect of your existence. This is the message that changed the world 14 centuries ago and continues to challenge us today. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's demanding. Yes, it strips away all the comfortable delusions we like to tell ourselves. But it's also liberating, because it means your fate is in your hands. Your choices matter more than your circumstances. Your efforts matter more than your lineage. You are not predestined for paradise or hell based on which family or tribe or religion you were born into. You have agency, you have responsibility, you have the power to change, and you have hope. Every single day you wake up is another chance to become a better version of yourself, to rectify your mistakes, to strengthen your character, to purify your intentions, and to prepare for that day when absolutely nothing will be hidden and absolutely everyone will be held accountable. The question isn't whether that day is coming, because it is. The question isn't whether you'll face it, because you will. The only question that matters is, what are you doing today, right now, in this moment, to prepare for it? Because that horn will blow, those distractions will be cut through, and you'll stand there with nothing but the truth of who you really were. And on that day, the only thing that will matter is whether that truth sets you free or condemns you forever.